We can no longer be the sole author of terms, of commerce, of anything. We have to share power.
With China?
Of course, because of their scale. And so there's got to be a non-destructive way to do this.
You can put all this to rest by explaining why you tend to always side on these regimes' side. Why do you always come down on that side? Why are you always painting the United States as the bad guy? Why are you always pushing? Only the best stingers here. We needed to do something to address a topic that many of you have been aware of, have been talking about, but lately have not been focusing all that much on. So let's start it off with this. The United States has had kinetic involvement in Venezuela and now Iran. First part, fantastic. In and out, really good. Iran, yet to be seen. Hopefully, I'll be able to report back at some time. Fantastic. If not, we can have a conversation about that. It's been a conflict, a proxy conflict with Russia for years now as well, with funding Ukraine and many other places. But at the center of it all remains our chief foe, if not now down the line, but certainly now is a better time to deal with it, China. Unfortunately, we haven't yet gone to war in the Pacific. Hopefully we never have to, but make no mistake, we are in a different type of conflict with China.
Of course you're in a Chinese time of your life. You don't have a choice. Your country is collapsing. Does your Chineseness end at squatting and chopsticks, or are you ready to examine what you've been taught? The U.S. will inevitably move against China, and when it happens, they will make China the instigator. And there's a reason for this. First, China proves that there is an alternative to Western neoliberalism and hypercapitalism. Second, it proves that the system can not only rival the global hegemon, but surpass it. So the U.S. pours billions into anti-China propaganda and spends even more encircling China with military bases, and then telling you
the Chinese Communist Party is evil and it is oppressive.
Yes, the CCP is aggressive and expansionist. The CCP conducts mass surveillance. The CCP oppresses the marginalized and kills its own civilians, things that could never happen in the West. Never mind that China has lifted 800 million people out of poverty, that the majority of China's current power capacity comes from renewable energy, that China's medical system provides universal coverage, that it is among the safest countries in the world, and 90% of Chinese people own their own homes. Yes, we're the oppressed ones, and we need your saving soon. We are approaching a world order where the West can't weaponize the dollar and the U.S. military, moral posturing and the English language. Even worse, that there is a world without the West. Vibrant economies and continents that don't need the declining European market and politically volatile United States. That business can be conducted amongst each other without the permission or participation of former empires. That their incessant lecturing is irrelevant and annoying. And while the West descends into civil chaos, with all the hallmarks of a sinking ship, the rise of populism, identity politics, unmanageable inflation and cost of living crises, they will point their finger at everyone else. And of course, there goes another $11 billion military package to Taiwan. And of course, we need to confront Chinese expansion in the South China Sea. Why the f*** is the U.S. in the South China Sea? So when the U.S. inevitably moves against China, remember then that you were in a Chinese time of your life.
We need a comprehensive strategy just like we had to defeat the Soviet Union.
All right, I'm going to go through each one of the stupid, false, lie claims here in just a second. But the first thing that I hope you notice about a video like that is it's not somebody sitting there giving you this information, showing you all the resources you need to be able to go and kind of research this. It's a social media influencer who spent a lot of time recording herself in completely unrelated situations to use as cover for a video, hoping you'd be more focused on it's an attractive girl than on she's lying to you. So let's get into it. 800 million, first claim, 800 million out of poverty. Half the country lives on $1,200 US per year. So maybe you have a little bit more work to do. And most of that pulling out of poverty is just overall done at slave wages. So maybe they have a different level of poverty than we do. Another one, majority of China's energy is from renewables. Well, almost 20% is from renewables, and that's fantastic. I know you guys are switching over to a lot of solar. There you go, beating us in that game. Fine. Coal, 59%. Fossil fuels overall, 78%. And they depend more on foreign oil than ever before right now. See the Iran conflict and the closing of the Strait of Hormuz and China going, hey, knock it off. Here's another one. China has universal medical coverage. I'm not sure how she makes this claim with a straight face. No, 3 doctors per 10,000 people. 10,000 people. And despite having a universal health care system, 30% of all healthcare costs are out of pocket, and the rural areas struggle to get health care. Now, I wouldn't be making all of these points just to like crap on them. I'm saying like it's hard to be a big country and to run these things and to get medical care out to the rural areas. But you made the point that you have free health care. I think Canada makes that point. In fact, I think Cuba makes that point. And just for everybody here, obviously, if I'm talking about China, I'm going to bring in one of the big guns. Lane, the brain, is sitting over here champing at the bit to get into these. But I'm going to just keep rattling these things off. One of the safest countries in the world. What say you, Lane?
It's not that safe, especially if you're a child walking innocently outside of a school and an old man decides that it's time to end it all and run 20 of you and your peers over. So
that happens every week.
For reference, check out the Bollard Report.
The Bollard Report.
The Bollard Report.
The people that make the Bollards, doing great. Yes. Fantastic business model right now. You pretty much have to put them everywhere. Those are those things that prevent cars from driving into convenience stores here in the United States. They put them down sidewalks.
And Target, you got the big red ones. That's what you'd be most familiar with.
That's exactly right. Another claim, 90% of Chinese people own their own homes. 860 square feet in China is $300,000. So maybe if they're on the tiny home show, that's true.
They all own the homes, but they all have massive debt to take it out. And it's the entire family that spent their life savings to get that one home that may or may not ever be built.
Exactly. They have a lot of ghost cities, too, that I remember seeing being built. And also they had a major housing crash. I think they had a couple of their major companies go bankrupt in the last couple of years.
Evergrande and Country Gardens.
Yep,
yeah.
Exactly.
Very English names.
They really are.
Yeah, strange.
I wonder why they would do that. But out of all the other BS facts, can I just point out one thing? She didn't address the claims that she made, which was funny to me. She said, oh, they kill their own citizens. Oh, they do this. Oh, they do that. She listed 3 or 4 things. And I'm like, okay, well, she's going to combat that. And she's going to say, no, we don't put Uyghurs in camps. No, we didn't kill people during COVID and disappear doctors. No, we don't kill dissident citizens. No, we didn't lock people in their homes during COVID and weld them in and have videos of people shouting from apartments. We talked to a person who I think was over there at the time.
He just emailed me
all
the
that.
other day. He's like, I'm out.
He's alive. He made it.
And now there's missiles flying.
Well, he's picking the bad places to go. It's his fault at this point. No, she didn't address any of that. She went to, we have healthcare. We have better energy prospects than the United States. We have better home ownership than the United States. We have better security, better this. She didn't address the things that she herself brought up. By the way, very bad strategy to bring up things that are real black marks on a society and then not address them. You didn't have to. That was a self-inflicted wound. But what I do want to focus on is one part of her video in particular.
First, China proves that there is an alternative to Western neoliberalism and hypercapitalism. Second, it proves that the system can not only rival the global hegemon, but surpass it. So the US pours billions into anti-China propaganda and spends even more encircling China with military bases, and then telling you
The Chinese Communist Party is evil and it is oppressive.
Can we look at that map one more time, please? Yeah. Lane, to your knowledge, do we have a U.S. Base on mainland China?
Well, in best case scenario, it's on Hong Kong somehow,
still
or
don't have a
potentially it's in
base
Guangxi province. But last I checked, our military presence in China wasn't massive, unless Hegseth is really just kicking ass, and I wasn't aware.
It really
of it,
is.
But yeah,
you saw the cover there. She's like showing you her food. This is like a total Instagram models kind of page. I'm going to show you
It
my
is a
food
food-
and
it's a-
me
that's
and
what it
everything
is.
else. I know she's
It's a
well,
food
but
page.
it's all about food, except it's about China. Really, I love how she shows Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, and then she goes on to a man I don't like a whole lot right now. Sorry, it's just the fact is he's been wrong on a lot of issues right now. Ted
he's
Cruz,
in Cancun
looking at
now.
you. Don't worry about it. But with all of that in mind, listen, there are people that you hate it when people get paid to go over to any country and make that country look more palatable to the citizens of that nation. Okay, got it. I understand. To the nation they're from, right? Okay. We tend to focus on a particular nation for that, rightfully so. Are you paying attention with China? Because it's working. There are a lot of people out there, not just normies, not just your incels, not just people that are kind of casually into politics, not just your Trump supporters, MAGA supporters. No. There are people in media that are buying this, picking up on it, and parroting these talking points in general. So with that, let's take a look at Tucker Carlson and him discussing Taiwan with the editor-in-chief of The Economist.
The U.S. is not going to defend and cannot defend Taiwan. Now,
Should not defend?
I don't know, that's not
I mean, I'm asking you to lay out what you think a coherent...
I think we've reached the limits of our power, and power has limits. Like, that's another thing just to keep in mind. Power's not infinite. You can squander it. And we're in the process of doing that.
And what about Japan and South Korea?
Oh, man, it's hard. I don't understand exactly how that's going to go at all from an American perspective. But, like, in the end, big powers want to and get to control their regions. We have something called the Monroe Doctrine. This was another problem I had with Russia. It's like Russia, of course, is going to demand influence in Ukraine. And you could say, oh, it's a sovereign country. They can't have any influence there. Be real. A big power wants to control, hopefully in a non-brutal, enlightened way, but they want some influence over their neighbors. We can no longer be the sole author of terms, of commerce, of anything. We have to share power.
With China?
Of course, because of their scale. And so there's got to be a non-destructive way to do this.
There was a lot there. What part of the Chinese propaganda that Tucker Carlson seems to be parroting there stood out to you the most?
So give me a second on this, but the one that jumps out is his either fundamental misunderstanding or misinterpretation of the Monroe Doctrine, which was to but so that the United States would control the Western Hemisphere and prevent other powers from interfering in that. While we said we would not interfere with Europe's pre-existing colonial interests outside of the Western Hemisphere. So first of all, he has a misunderstanding there. Second of all, the U.S. foreign policy now and has always been is to be the hegemon in our region, which is the Western Hemisphere, while not allowing any other country, singular country, to dominate its region. So therefore, we don't let Russia dominate Europe, Eurasia. We do not let China dominate the Western Pacific. Because once you let those countries dominate a region, right now there's no hegemon in Asia.
Right.
There's no global hegemon, so we don't control Asia. We don't control Europe, but we have interest in those. And it's obvious that we have commercial interests, security interests, because we are a Pacific country. So what he's saying is we essentially allow China to control Asia. What that means for Japan and South Korea, I think it's very obvious. I don't think they'll be treated as peers or as equals.
Man, I don't know was his response. That's tough.
We've seen this historically, just like we didn't want to allow the Japanese to control Asia for the exact same reasons.
And still don't.
And we still don't. If Japan wanted to remilitarize and take over that, we couldn't, because 50% of the globe's economy is in that region. That means some of our biggest trading partners, where our crops go, where we get stuff from.
Yep.
It's vitally important. So if we follow the line of thinking that Tucker wants us to follow, and that starts with the first domino and not intervening in a Taiwan contingency, because make no mistake, that is the first domino to that first island chain falling, and then being able to project power into the Pacific and keep us out, we lose huge commercial interest, and we lose not only that, but prosperity in our own country. Read the book, read Elbridge Colby's work on this. He explains very meticulously how our interests being taken over by China in that region would materially ruin the quality of life in the United States. Because once they achieve their power there, what they are going to want to do is make sure that we do not have the capability to challenge that. So they will systematically weaken. And if you think they'll just let us exist peacefully over in the Western Hemisphere, no, we're not stupid. They're not stupid. Russia's not stupid. We're all playing the same game. Tucker just wants us to lose that game for some reason.
It seems like that, but it also seems like a big advertisement for government-controlled economies. And what we've seen with China is not a complete like Russian system where they're setting the price of everything, right? So it's not completely top down. It's basically a system, and you probably have better kind of language for this than I will, but in a sense, there's an element of capitalism with heavy government control.
State capitalism.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. State capitalism is probably the best way to say it. And that's kind of the in vogue thing right now. Let the state have enough power to determine what kind of rights you can have through a social credit score, what kind of traveling, banking information you can, or banks that you can even be a part of, places that you can possibly go. Your life will be controlled, but in exchange for that, you'll have a relatively high quality of life. Now, hopefully is the right answer. You may want to kill yourself and or others because of how kind of suffocating that life is.
There's a phenomenon in China right now, because the youth unemployment is so high, where they pretend to go to work, and there's like WeWork set up for the youth to go to.
Sit?
They just go sit all day. They pay a couple bucks to sit in the room and pretend like they're working, so their families don't know.
Jeez. That's the kind of thing, like it just feels like a big advertisement for that right now. And Tucker, this is not the first time that he's been parroting talking points of a country that we would look at and go, wait a minute, why are you doing, like, you want to take some of the good aspects from civilizations historically and currently
China
around
has
the world?
those
Fine.
now.
Yes.
To pretend they don't have anything going for them is a lot. Their engineering state is phenomenal. The things they can build quickly, we can learn from that.
Absolutely. But to go out there and start to say with definitive certainty that these people are doing this better, just like the Moscow train station, the Moscow grocery store, those propaganda videos, had no problem with the Tucker interview with Putin, thought it was fantastic for him to go do that, had a really big problem with him putting out propaganda for the Russians right after that. And it wasn't just this video, it wasn't just this sit down with The Economist where Tucker, I don't, the grift, the being paid by, I have no idea why Tucker goes down this road. I have no clue if it's just for clicks or if he's being paid. So I'm not going to say either one, but I just know it's factually not correct. And I think he knows he's lying. But on top of that, there was another interview that he did.
I think it was a monologue that he had.
A monologue on his show before the interview that he did. So he plays this at the beginning of his show, his monologue, where he discussed similar things on China.
Now, it is a multipolar world. You've heard that phrase, no doubt, and that means there are at least a couple centers of gravity. Really, there are two. There's the U.S. and the constellation of states with which it's allied, and then there is, on the eastern hemisphere of the globe, China. And China is now a peer with the United States, at least, almost no matter how you measure it. Population, of course, much bigger. Military power, well, we're not quite sure, but certainly from a technological and industrial output standpoint, at least a peer. And then on a pure economic level, well, China has a bigger economy, a bigger real economy than the United States.
All right. That's just factually incorrect.
Just wrong.
Just straight up wrong. And I've commented about this with Tucker's opinion. Anytime Tucker says, trust me, or it's just a fact, we know this, this isn't debated. He says that often, and he gives you zero links. He gives you zero backup for what he's saying. And he says it about things that sometimes sound outlandish and sometimes sound like maybe they're true. So let's take a look at the most kind of generous case that we can possibly make if he's talking about like the PPP, so the purchasing power and GDP per capita. And China's is 32.5% of America's. 32.5% on a per capita basis. If you take it as a total, it gets close to the United States. That's the most generous kind of case that we can make.
Total PPP would be the closest measure.
Yeah, absolutely. Just in real GDP, it's only 63.4% of America's right now, and that's down from 76.7% of America's in 2021. They're going backwards. I don't understand that. You want to talk about the military? We don't know. What do you mean we don't know?
We know their air defense systems.
We definitely know their air defense systems. We face them in other places.
And we know that that Xi Jinping just purged his entire military command leadership.
Yes, he did.
But their population's really big. Oh, except it's also expected to decrease by 100 million over the next 10 years.
Why is that?
Because of one, very poor social planning, under the one-child policy. But two, because it is so damn expensive for the average Chinese person to live. Look at the PPP right there. The thing Tucker's citing as their strength. It's so damn expensive for anybody to have a child. The government's now attempting to essentially coerce and soon, I would predict, force
baby factories,
people to have children.
Yeah.
This isn't to say there's not good things about China or everything about America is good, but he is just factually misrepresenting the reality of the situation. And I do not understand why he won't say, they do this well, they do this poor. We need to take them seriously, but here's the reality. He is not doing that.
No, he's not.
I don't get it, Gerald. I don't get it.
I don't either, but I do see a common trend. Talks glowingly about the Middle East, but really the Gulf states, right? Fantastic, safe. They take care of their people. I can leave my car keys in the Lamborghini and not fear that anybody's going to run off with it. Oh, that's fantastic. Qatar, greatest ally in the world. Greatest ally. Qatar, love Qatar. Russia, man, have you seen the subways? They take care of their cities. I wish DC looked like this. These are loose quotes, by the way, from his shows. You can fact check me on it if you want.
Paraphrasing, if you will.
Paraphrasing, yeah. China is just bigger than us. At the very least, a peer. Bigger, doing better, heading in the right direction, doing better with energy. Their military, technology, wow, kicking our ass. Every single one of those things What do those countries have in common? What would we look at those countries and first pick out to determine whether those countries are good countries or not? How they treat their citizens, primarily. What kind of freedoms do they have? What kind of longevity do they have? What kind of industry? Is industry taking the lead and having the freedom in the market to go out and do what they think is necessary with some restrictions to make sure they're not taking advantage of people? Or is the government the one that benefits mostly from all of this, and then they kind of divvy up some of that? Every one of those countries that I just listed, we wouldn't look at and go, we want to be them. We don't want to be like those countries.
You know what countries he never meant? If I really thought this was constructive criticism of the United States, potentially he would mention anywhere in Scandinavia. Poland.
Yeah, Poland. Fantastic.
Singapore. Japan. Taiwan. All those countries have the same level or higher levels of development than any of these countries, and much, much higher personal freedom, and they are all at least ostensibly allied with the United States. Not one of those countries outside of Qatar, which is, just do with it what you will, they are antithetical to the United States.
Yeah.
They are our rivals.
Exactly.
Which makes me really question his motives on this.
So why would you be pushing systems that are antithetical to what we believe here in the United States? But I'm a Christian and I love this country. This is Tucker Carlson. Again, I'm a Christian. I love this
We hate
country.
Russia because it's white, Gerald.
It's white Christian, and that's what we learned. That's our lesson from World War II, is what he said. Apparently, that's why we hated Germany, too, because it was white and Christian. Apparently, that's why we bombed, what was it, Hiroshima or Nagasaki, where we bombed the church, and it was the Christian capital of that region.
Was France not also Catholic during World War II?
I mean, I think so, maybe. I think there was a lot of Catholic priests in Germany as well that, we must hate all of them, I guess.
It's so reductive.
It's ridiculous. And listen, I don't want to just be like, oh, he's ridiculous. We gave you the facts to rebut what he's saying. And Tucker is just parroting CCP talking points and Alexander Duggan talking points as well, because he's parroting CCP talking points. Weird. In his, book, Foundation of Politics in 1997, he openly talks about subverting America with internal divisions. That's Duggan.
That is the guy that came up with the multipolar theory that they keep parroting and parroting and parroting. He's the guy who, and what stands in the way of that is American dominance. And in his book, he is prescribed how to get rid of America. He says our culture is the most destructive thing, not our military. He doesn't like our culture, and he's prescribed how to knock us down. And now Tucker is taking those talking points and mainstreaming them within the American right.
And doing it very effectively. Making it seem like he knows what he's talking about. He has sources. He's talked to people. We know this. It's fact. Nobody's even arguing this. And look, your cities could be nicer too. Look, maybe you'd have better health care. And look, maybe you'd have less social unrest. And maybe it would be more white and more Christian. Do you see the game that Tucker's playing? I really hope you do.
Poland is all of those things right now, never cited once by Tucker.
Not once.
There's a reason for it.
And I don't think we ever will. Look, Tucker, you can put all this to rest by explaining why you tend to always side on these regimes' side. Why do you always come down on that side? Why are you always painting the United States as the bad guy? Why are you always pushing and prodding and digging for the truth when it comes to your favorite talking points in interviews, but giving a complete runway to people who parrot everything that you have been talking about? And don't challenge them at all. Don't push back on anything. That's the pattern that I am seeing right now. Tucker knows how to do an interview. I've seen it. He does it very, very well. He pushes very, very well. And he could do that to some of the people pushing these talking points, but he doesn't. I think you're seeing exactly what he wants you to see. And at this point, I'm not saying Tucker Carlson is just a guy who's got the wrong idea. He's a propagandist, period. We'll see you next time.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, you can click around and watch one of these videos on YouTube, or head on over to Rumble and subscribe, where I am live every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Live on Rumble. YouTube is dead. Rumble did it. And on Rumble, You can say, F